Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are going to try and change the way you look at, well, pretty much everything.
That's a bold promise.
It is. And I don't mean it in the usual, here's a mind-blowing fact kind of way. I mean, we are literally going to try and deconstruct the reality you think you're walking around in.
It is a heavy one today, for sure. We're looking at the architecture of human belief, the very scaffolding of society.
Exactly. We're basing this on a really fascinating piece of research called Socio-Symbolic Space, the evolution of the as-if ability. And our mission today is pretty specific. We want to trace the history of a single cognitive shift.
Because one,
The moment humanity moved from living in a purely biological reality, eat, sleep, reproduce, to a socio-symbolic one.
right, it's the shift that allows all of us to act as if certain things are real, when physically they just aren't.
Yeah.
And how that one specific ability, that as-if function, literally built the modern world from the ground up.
So let's just dive right in. The text starts with this idea it calls the as-if threshold, and it frames this as the definitive line in the sand between animals and humans.
Great dividing line.
Yeah, and honestly, when I first read that, my first thought was, okay, we're just talking about imagination, right? But the source material is digging way, way deeper than just, daydreaming.
It is. It's much more fundamental than that. And we have to get a little technical for a second just to lay the groundwork, because this is the bedrock of the entire theory.
Okay.
The text uses this term indexicality or indexical signs. And to really get what makes humans so weird, you have to first understand how pretty much every other animal on the planet processes information.
Okay, let's unpack that. Indexical. It sounds like something from a library card catalog.
It does, but it's actually a semiotics term. In semiotics, an index is a sign where the relationship between the sign and the thing it signifies is, well, physical. It's caused.
Oh, so one causes the other.
Exactly. Think about smoke and fire. Smoke isn't a symbol for fire. Smoke is physically caused by fire. If you see smoke, fire is there. Period. There's no debate. It's a one-to-one correlation in the physical world.
So the sign is basically a symptom of the thing itself. It's direct evidence.
It's direct evidence. That's a perfect way to put it. Now, apply this to animal cognition. When a dog hears another dog growl, it doesn't stand there and think, that German Shepherd seems to be expressing dissatisfaction with my presence here.
Right. There's no abstract analysis going on.
None. The growl is the aggression. The dog's brain receives those sound waves and immediately dumps adrenaline and cortisol into its system. There is no gap. The sign and the reality are just fused together.
So the animal is, in a sense, trapped in the immediate physical inputs of the present moment. They can't step back and go, you know what, I think that growl is a bluff.
They might sense hesitation through other cues, maybe, but they can't detach the sign from the sender. They live in a world of absolute brutal literalism. If a gazelle smells a lion, it doesn't pause to consider the philosophical implications of that scent. The scent is the predator in its mind. The reaction is completely hardwired.
So in this biological reality the animals live in, things are just exactly what they appear to be. There's no metaphor, there's no irony, there's no sarcasm.
Not a shred, but
Yeah.
humans. We, at some point, crossed that threshold. We developed what the text calls the as-if capacity. We broke that fuse. We created a gap between the sign, the sound, the image, the word, and the physical reality.
This is the ability to detach the symbol from its physical object, from its referent.
Precisely. We can treat a symbol as if it is the primary reality, even when it has absolutely no physical connection to what it represents. This is what the text calls the symbolic real.
The symbolic real.
We live in a world where, most of the time, the symbol matters more than the actual object.
The text uses the example of gold here, which I think is a great place to start. And I have to push back just a little on this because, my first reaction is gold is valuable, right? It's rare, it's shiny, we use it in electronics, it has physical
It has some utility, absolutely, no one's denying that.
Yeah.
But let's really look at the biological reality of gold versus its market price.
Okay.
If you were a chimp or a survivalist stranded on a desert island, what is gold? What is it, really?
It's a rock.
It's a metal, it's yellow, it's relatively heavy. It's actually too soft to make a good tool out of, and you definitely can't eat it.
Right. If I'm starving, a gold bar is just a very heavy, very useless rock.
Exactly. An animal looking at a gold bar just sees a shiny rock.
Yeah.
That is the biological objective truth of the matter. But the symbolic reality is that gold is wealth. It's status. It's security. Think about what we do with it. We dig it out of one hole in the ground in, say, Africa. We refine it, we fly it halfway across the world to London, and then we bury it in another hole in the ground we call a vault. And we all nod and say, this makes us rich.
When you put it that way, it does sound completely insane. We're just moving heavy yellow rocks from one hole to another.
But here's the kicker, the part that underpins everything. That status, that wealth, exists only because we collectively agree to act as if it does.
It's a shared story.
It's a shared act. If every single person on Earth woke up tomorrow with a collective case of amnesia and forgot the story of gold, its value would instantly collapse. It would revert to being just a soft, yellow, conductive metal.
Its value would plummet to its industrial utility, which is
Right.
what? A tiny fraction of its current price.
A tiny fraction. So the value isn't in the atoms. The value is in the as if.
Okay, so the as if is this collective agreement that gives worthless things immense power.
Precisely. And this leads to the profound consequence the source highlights. This ability isn't just a party trick. It allows us to coordinate across vast stretches of time and distance. And it introduces what the text calls social gravity.
Social gravity. I love that image. It's like a planet pulling things toward it, but you can't see the planet.
Think about it. Laws, myths, currency, national borders, none of these things have any physical mass. You can't put a law on a scale. You can't touch a border. It's just a line on a map.
A line in the symbolic world.
Right. But these things dictate our behavior more powerfully than most physical objects do.
Yeah.
They pull on us.
Yeah.
We orbit them. That is the power of the as if. We will march to war. We will starve ourselves. We will work 80 hours a week, all in service of these invisible constructs.
So, okay, we've established what this ability is. It's the ability to essentially hallucinate value and meaning where there isn't any physically. But the really juicy part of this text, and the part that I found kind of terrifying, actually, is the theory on how we get it. Because evolution doesn't usually just hand out superpowers for no reason. It's almost always messy. It's accidental.
It is messy. And this brings us to the section, the text titles, The Vine and the Snake. And this is a theory of symbolic evolution that suggests our greatest cognitive tool didn't start with a brilliant insight. It started as a mistake.
A mistake. Like a glitch in the code.
A hallucination,
Yes.
essentially.
Yeah.
A bug that became a feature. The text calls it the primal mistake. And I want you to really try to visualize this scenario because it's a sliding doors moment for our entire species.
Okay.
We're back in the Pleistocene. You're a hominid.
Yeah.
You're walking through the jungle. You're hungry. You're scanning the canopy for fruit. You're on high alert.
Right. Everything is either food or a threat.
Exactly. And your dopamine is spiking because you see a ripe fig on a tree. You start walking towards it.
Okay, I'm there. My focus is narrowed. I have tunnel vision on the prize.
Right. And in that high-stakes state of emotional excitement, a long dangling vine in your peripheral vision just twitches in the wind. Just a little movement. Now, your brain has a choice. It can take the slow path and analyze the botanical texture of the vine, its color, its shape, which takes maybe 500 milliseconds. Or it can take a shortcut. It can hallucinate.
And if it waits that 500 milliseconds and it is a snake, you're dead.
Precisely. The cost of a false negative thinking it's a vine when it's really a snake is death. The cost of a false positive thinking it's a snake when it's just a vine is a little embarrassment and a racing heart.
The evolutionary math on that is pretty simple.
It's a no-brainer. So the brain creates the false positive. It overlays the pre-existing mental template of a predator, of a snake, onto this harmless plant. You scream, you flee, your heart tries to punch its way through your ribs. The fear is absolutely real. The snake is real to you in that moment.
But the snake doesn't exist. It's a phantom projected onto the world.
It's a simulation running in your head. And here's where the magic happens. This is the crucial step. When that hominid stops running, heart-pounding, and looks back from a safe distance, he sees the vine for what it is.
He realizes his mistake.
He does, but the neural pathway for snake is still glowing white-hot in his brain. So he looks at the vine, but he feels the snake. And in that split second, the two concepts, the physical object vine and the remembered terror snake, they merge. They become linked.
The text calls this the cognitive bridge, right? The link between the real and the imagined.
Yes. The merge. The vine now symbolizes the snake. The vine is physically a plant, but emotionally and symbolically it has become the snake. The intense fear acted as a kind of cognitive glue.
And this is where we get the concept of displacement, which feels like the next big leap.
This is absolutely crucial. Displacement is the ability to talk about things that are not physically present.
Talking about yesterday or talking about what's over the next hill.
Exactly. Before this merge, how do you warn someone about a snake? You have to see the snake and point at it. The thing has to be there. But now
You don't need the snake.
you don't. The man can go back to his group, and he can point at a completely harmless vine, which is right there, to tell them about the dangerous snake, which is not there.
He's using a present object to conjure an absent reality. He's basically telling a ghost story with a prop.
He is using the as if. He is saying, everyone, treat this vine as if it is a snake, and you will understand the danger I faced. This is the birth of metaphor.
That's wild. So the argument here is that symbolism wasn't born from some clear-eyed philosopher sitting on a rock thinking about logic. It was born from a hallucinated threat, from a panic attack in the jungle.
Error as creation. That's the huge philosophical insight here. We hallucinated a monster, and in doing so, we accidentally invented the one tool that would let us build civilization.
Because once the brain figures out this trick...
It's a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Once the brain realizes, hey, I can use this object to represent that idea, it stops being just an emergency response. It becomes a tool you can use deliberately.
We move from accident to purpose.
Right. We start actively inventing symbols for abstract concepts we can't see or touch. We need to talk about time. We can't see time. So let's use the movement of a shadow on a rock. We need to talk about debt. We can't touch debt, so let's use a notch on a piece of bone. The as if shifts from being a bug to the operating system itself.
Which brings us to the next section of the source. Because having a symbol is cool, but it's not just about pointing at vines. It has to serve a purpose. It has to be about survival. The text calls the first as if the ultimate survival hack. But I want to pause on that phrase survival hack, because usually when we talk about human survival advantages, we're talking about spears or fire or bipedalism. How is pretending a survival hack? How does that help you kill a mammoth?
It doesn't help you kill one mammoth. It helps you coordinate 100 people to kill 20 mammoths.
Okay.
And to understand that, we have to look at what the text and evolutionary biology in general calls the grooming gap.
Right.
In the animal kingdom, especially with primates, our closest relatives, relationships are physical. Trust is biochemical.
I think I've heard of this. The whole grooming thing. A chimp picking lice off another chimp's back.
Exactly. You build trust with the individual who physically grooms your fur. It's an investment of time and energy. It releases oxytocin in both of you. It's a bonding ritual. You know them. You smell them. You know their history. Your trust is based on a long, physical, one-on-one relationship.
But there's a problem with that. You can only groom so many people in a day. It takes time.
Exactly. There are only so many hours in the day. And this creates a hard biological ceiling on group size. This is related to what's known as Dunbar's number. You physically cannot maintain these deep, trust-based grooming-style relationships with more than, say, 50, maybe 150 individuals at the absolute most.
And if you try to go beyond that?
Chaos. If you try to create a group of 1,000 chimps, it's a bloodbath. They don't know each other. They view any stranger as a threat. They fight for resources, for mates. They kill each other.
So biological trust doesn't scale. It's a local network.
It absolutely does not scale. But humans, look at us. We are living in cities of millions. We work in companies of thousands. We are part of nations of hundreds of millions. How did we break that ceiling? How did we get from 150 to 8 billion?
We use the first as if.
We shattered the limit. And we did it by shifting the basis of trust from the person to the symbol. The text uses the hypothetical example of the lion spirit, but it could be any totem, any ancestor myth, any early god.
Let's walk through that slowly. How does believing in a lion spirit stop me from wanting to kill a stranger I meet on the path?
Okay, so imagine your small tribe comes to an agreement. We act as if we are all the chosen children of the great lion spirit. It's a story, a fiction.
Right.
Now, one day, I meet you on the trail. I have never seen you before. I haven't groomed you. I don't know your scent, your family, your history. In the pure, objective, biological world, you are a threat. You are a competitor for food and resources.
Right. My deep monkey brain is screaming, attacker, danger.
But if you are wearing the mark of the lion spirit, maybe it's a specific face paint or a necklace made of lion claws, and I am also wearing the mark of the lion spirit, something changes.
I recognize the symbol.
And by recognizing the symbol, I instantly know a huge amount about you, even though I don't know you. I know you follow the same rules as me. I know you believe in the same punishments for breaking those rules. I know you value the same things. The lion's spirit protects those who follow its laws.
So I can trust you, not because I know you as an individual, but because I know this symbol and what it represents.
Exactly. The symbol acts as a container for trust. It's like a portable reputation system, a trust API. This was the breakthrough that allowed humans to form massive, coordinated networks. While other hominid species were trapped in physical recognition limited to their immediate family or pack, Homo sapiens could coordinate armies, build massive irrigation systems, and trade with people they had never met.
And it was all because we shared the same the same story.
It's like we upgraded our social networking technology. We went from networking via, I don't know, Ethernet cables, where you have to be physically plugged into every single person you trust, to Wi-Fi.
That is a great analogy. A shared cultural Wi-Fi.
And that Wi-Fi signal, the shared network we all operate on, is what the source calls socio-symbolic space.
Okay, let's talk about that. Because the text argues this isn't just a figure of speech, it's not a metaphor. It describes socio-symbolic space as a literal new dimension. But hold on, let's zoom out for a second. We've gone from monkeys hallucinating snakes to this very abstract concept of socio-symbolic space. If I'm driving to work right now, where is this space? Is it in my head? Is it outside?
It's a tricky question, right?
Okay.
Because it feels totally invisible. But the text defines it as the intersubjective layer created by collective agreement.
Intersubjective.
Which is just a fancy way of saying it exists between subjects. It's not in my head, which would be subjective, and it's not in a rock, which would be objective. It exists in the space between us, in our shared agreements.
Okay.
And the most important part is that this space has physics. It has forces.
Physics, like gravity and electromagnetism.
In a way, yes. Think about a red light. You're driving your car, you come to an intersection, and you see a red light. Physically, objectively, what is it?
It's a light bulb behind a piece of red plastic or glass.
Right. It's a photon emission at a specific wavelength. It has zero mass. It cannot physically stop your 2,000-pound car. If you closed your eyes and floored the accelerator, the light itself couldn't stop you. The photons would just bounce off your windshield.
But I do stop every single time, hopefully.
No. Why?
Well, because I don't want a ticket or to cause a horrible accident or to get my license suspended.
Exactly. You're being stopped by a force that exists only in socio-symbolic space, the law. The shared agreement that red means stop and green means go. That agreement has what we call social gravity. It exerts a real physical force on your foot to hit the brake pedal, even though the light itself is physically powerless.
That is the space we're talking about.
It's an invisible overlay on top of physical reality that dictates how matter and energy move.
Wow. So if I sign a mortgage, for example, I'm physically free to just walk away from that house and never come back. But symbolically, I am tethered to that building for 30 years.
Exactly. The signed contract is a binding force in this symbolic space. And the text mentions fiat currency here as well, which is a perfect example. It's a store of value that was invented in the symbolic world, not discovered in the physical one. It's not a nugget of gold we found in a river. It's a concept we built entirely out of the as if.
It's like a battery. We charge it with our belief in our labor, and then we can discharge it to get physical goods and services.
A perfect analogy. And this space, this is the key takeaway of this section of the work. This space has become dominant.
What do you mean by dominant?
This space started as a little software patch to help small tribes cooperate. But now, it is the dominant interface through which we interact with the physical planet.
We don't see the world directly anymore.
Almost never. When you look at a forest, you don't just see trees and soil. You see private property or lumber yield or a protected national park. You are seeing the symbolic tags overlaid on the physical world first.
It's like we're all wearing augmented reality glasses that we can never take off. We're always reading the metadata on everything.
Precisely. And to operate in this augmented reality, you need an avatar. You can't just walk in as a biological primate. You need a formatted self, a digital self, long before digital computers existed.
And this brings us to what the text calls the legal person. And I have to admit, this is the part of the reading that really made me stop and just think. Because I always assumed a person was just a human. Like, I am a person, you are a person. It seems self-evident.
And that is exactly what the system wants you to think because it makes things seamless. But the text has a fascinating deep dive into the etymology here. The word person, it comes from the Latin word persona.
Which means mask.
Yes. A mask worn by an actor in a Greek or Roman play. And this is key. In ancient Rome, the persona was the character you played in society, not the biological human behind the mask. The mask itself often had a built-in megaphone to amplify the voice. It defined your role. It was your public interface.
So the legal person is a mask we are all issued at birth that we have to wear to enter socio-symbolic space.
Correct. The text calls it a symbolic social avatar. By adopting this mask, a biological human gains standing. It means you can be seen by the system.
What do you mean seen by the system?
The system, the law, the economy, the state, it literally cannot see you. It cannot see your feelings, your biology, your consciousness, your soul. It can only see the mask.
It sees the node in the network. It sees the property owner, the rights holder, the taxpayer,
Sure.
the defendant.
Exactly. And this, right here, explains the logic behind something that confuses and frankly angers a lot of people. Corporate personhood.
Okay, I have to stop you there because this is where the logic usually loses people. We can talk about vines and snakes, and that's fine. But corporate personhood, it feels like a modern legal loophole, not some profound evolutionary trait. I mean, a corporation is a stack of papers in a filing cabinet. I am a living, breathing human being. We are not the same thing.
Biologically. Of course not. You are meat and electricity. The corporation is paper and bylaws. But the source material is making a radical argument. It's arguing that the system, the socio-symbolic space we all live in, doesn't have biological eyes. You can't see your biology.
It's blind to the physical world.
It's digital in a way. It only reads its own code. And in the code of law, the variable person does not mean human being. Person just means an entity capable of bearing rights and duties. It's an abstract container.
So when I walk into a courtroom, the judge isn't engaging with me, the guy who likes pizza and has a bad back. He's engaging with my persona, my legal mask.
Exactly. And because it's just a mask, a functional role, there is no law of physics that says a group of people, a corporation, can't collectively pick up that same mask and wear it.
So a corporation is just a symbolic mimetic organism.
That is the precise term the text uses. It's a non-biological entity that has been granted a persona. It's been given a mask. It can own property. It can enter into contracts. It can sue. It can be sued. It has legal agency within the symbolic space.
And this creates what the text calls interoperability.
Right. From the system's point of view, it makes things clean. It can treat a single biological human, a massive multinational corporation, and a national government as functionally equivalent actors. They are all just persons in the code, they're all nodes in the network, and they operate using the same standardized protocols, contracts, lawsuits, etc.
It's like in a video game. You can play as an elf, a dwarf, or a robot, but to the game engine, you're all just player objects. You all have hit points and an inventory and a location on the map.
Exactly. The underlying biological or non-biological reality is irrelevant to the symbolic engine running the game.
But it gets even weirder because the text doesn't stop there. It moves on to what it calls hyper-abstract organisms.
Yeah, now we're moving up the ladder of abstraction. We're getting very far from the jungle floor.
We started with a vine representing a snake, which is a one-to-one link.
Right. Physical object to physical object.
Then we had people representing a spirit. Then we had a corporation representing a group of people. Now we're at symbols of symbols.
We're talking about entities that are disconnected from the physical world by multiple layers of as if.
Okay, what does that look like?
In this layer, value is derived not from a physical object, and not even from a company that makes physical objects, but from the behavior of other symbols.
Can you give me a concrete example? Because my head is starting to spin a little bit.
Sure. Think about complex financial derivatives or high-frequency trading algorithms. You have a symbol, a stock, which represents partial ownership of a company. That's one layer of abstraction.
Okay, the company makes cars, so the stock is still tied to something real.
Right. But then you have a symbol, an options contract, which represents the future price of that stock. That's another layer. Then you have a symbol, a complex derivative, a credit default swap, which represents a bundle of thousands of those options, all packaged together and traded based on mathematical models of risk.
We are so far away from the vine at this point. We are miles away from the snake.
We are in the stratosphere. We're in what the text calls hyperreality. And the critical point here is that at this stage, the causality flips. The movement of the symbol now dictates the movement of the physical world.
The map starts commanding the territory.
Yes, that's the perfect way to phrase it. If a credit rating agency, which is a symbolic entity, downgrades a nation's debt, which is a symbolic concept, what happens in the real physical world?
Real people lose their jobs, factories close, food prices go up, real physical trucks stop moving because the credit to buy fuel dries up.
Exactly. A symbol moved on a computer screen in London or New York, and so the physical world had to violently rearrange itself to match that symbolic change. The as if has now become the is.
That is. It's simultaneously terrifying and amazing. It feels like we are living inside a vast, complex machine that we built, but that nobody fully understands anymore.
It's the power of the as-if, carried to its absolute logical extreme. And that's what leads us to the final and honestly the most provocative part of the entire source material.
This is the part that really made me put the tablet down and just stare at the wall for a minute.
Mm.
The text just comes right out and says it. There's no hedging. It says, this is magic.
It's not using magic as a metaphor for something cool. It is arguing for a direct structural comparison. The section is called The Technology of Spellcraft.
And we normally treat magic with a capital M as this archaic, superstitious nonsense that we, as enlightened modern people, grew out of. But the author flips that completely on its head.
It's a very bold claim. The argument is that we didn't grow out of magic. We industrialized it. We scaled it up. We bureaucratized spellcraft.
So modern finance, law, social organization, these are the direct descendants of ancient magic. Let's look at the mapping the text provides because it's incredibly precise and, frankly, chilling. It starts with true names.
Right. In every fantasy story or occult tradition, there's this idea that if you know a demon's true name or a spirit's true name, you have control over it. You have power. Naming is power.
And in our socio-symbolic space.
What is naming in a legal context? It's the act of labeling. When a court declares a collection of people and assets to be a legal person called General Motors, or when a state draws a border around a territory and names it France, it is fundamentally altering the reality of that thing.
It's not just a label.
It's an act of creation, creates jurisdiction. It changes the rules of physics that apply to that object within the social space. Before the name, it was just land with people on it. After the name, it is sovereign territory, and different rules apply there.
Okay, then we have incantations, words of power.
Performative utterances. This is a real concept from linguistics, but it's essentially spellcasting. Most of our speech is descriptive. The cat is on the mat. It describes the state of affairs. But some speech is performative. The act of saying the words does something. It changes reality.
Like a priest saying, I now pronounce you man and wife.
Exactly. Or a judge saying, I sentence you to 10 years in prison. Or a CEO at a press conference saying, we are merging with our competitor. These are all authorized speech acts. They are functionally spells.
Because the words themselves, when spoken by the right person in the right ritual setting,
A courtroom, a boardroom, a church.
the world physically changes. People are joined together, a person is physically put in a cage, two massive corporations begin the process of physically combining their assets. Reality is altered by the word.
It's like a command line in a computer. You type the correct command, hit enter, and the program executes. The courtroom is the terminal. The judge's words are the command.
The text also talks about sigils and talismans.
A sigil, in magical practice, is a symbol you create to manifest a specific desire or intent. Now look at a modern corporate logo.
It's a sigil.
It's a sigil. It's a piece of graphic design created to evoke trust, desire, loyalty, and to manifest the desire for profit. And talismans.
The text says fiat currency is the ultimate talisman.
It's a piece of paper, or a plastic card, or just a number on a server. It is charged with as-if value. It works exactly like a magical talisman in a role-playing game. It protects you from starvation and exposure, but here's the catch. It only works as long as the collective belief holds. If the belief breaks, the talisman instantly loses its charge and becomes just a worthless piece of paper.
And finally, the last one, evocation. This one really struck me as the most eerie parallel of all.
Evoking spirits from the ether. We touched on this with the corporation. What is the act of incorporation? The law evokes a non-biological entity into existence. You draw a magic circle, the articles of incorporation, you speak the magic words, the legal filings, and suddenly a new entity exists where none existed before. It has agency, it can outlive its creators, it can survive for centuries, long after the biological humans who started it are dust. It is a mimetic construct breathed into life by legal logic.
It's a golem.
Effectively, yes.
Right.
It is an artificial being created to serve a purpose, animated entirely by the collective, as if.
So the text concludes this section by basically saying the only real difference between magic and the system is consensus. It's a question of scale.
That's the whole high magic as social technology concept. If I stand alone in my backyard and wave a stick and declare myself the king of the squirrels, that is delusion. I am acting as if by myself. It has no power.
But if 300 million people do it?
If millions or billions of people agree to act as if a piece of paper with a dead president on it is money, or that a building with a flag on it is a court, that's not delusion. That is civilization. The text goes so far as to call abstract financial instruments the high magic of our era.
Because they're complex mathematical spells.
Exactly. Used by techno-magicians in skyscrapers to move vast quantities of energy and resources around the globe.
Just by moving symbols on a screen.
Purely by symbolic manipulation. No different structurally from a sorcerer moving symbols around in a circle on the floor.
It brings up that famous Arthur C. Clarke quote, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
And the inverse is true here. Any sufficiently advanced and scaled-up bureaucracy is indistinguishable from a spellbook.
Wow, okay. We have covered a massive amount of ground here. My brain is officially full. Let's try to recap this entire journey before we wrap up, because there's a very clear logical thread, even if it feels wild.
It's quite an arc, for sure. So, number 1.
We started at the biological constraint. Animals are trapped in the indexical world. Smoke equals fire. They live entirely in the physical now.
2. Then we saw the evolutionary spark, the vine snake hallucination. That primal mistake allowed us to merge concepts, to use one thing to represent another, and to talk about things that aren't there, the birth of the symbol.
Right. 3. That led directly to the survival hack, the lion spirit story. We use these new shared symbols to bridge the grooming gap, to trust strangers, which allowed us to build tribes and societies far larger than biology should have ever allowed.
4. That scaled-up trust built a whole new reality, the socio-symbolic space. A new dimension overlaid on the physical world with its own physics, things like laws, debts, and borders that exert real force.
5. To enter that new space, we needed an avatar. We invented the legal person, the mask. And that logically opened the door for non-human persons like corporations, creating interoperability.
And finally, 6. We took a step back and realized that this entire structure, our laws, our economy, our civilization, is, from a functional perspective, a form of standardized magic running on industrialized spellcraft.
It really makes you look at a dollar bill or a signed contract completely differently. It's not just stuff. It's a frozen piece of collective belief. It's a talisman.
And that brings us right to the final conclusion of the source material. The idea of the infrastructure of belief.
Yeah, that phrase really stuck with me.
We think of infrastructure as roads and bridges and power grids, concrete and steel. But the text argues that the real infrastructure of our lives, the system that dictates almost everything we do, is invisible. It's causal, but it's made of memes and stories and shared agreements.
We're still biological creatures, though. I still need to eat real food. I still feel real cold. The physical world hasn't gone away.
No, absolutely not. We are tethered to the physical world. But we live our lives, navigate our choices, almost entirely within this symbolic mimetic ecosystem. Our status, our safety, our goals, our very identity, they're all just coordinates in the great as if.
And the whole thing, this entire vast global architecture, is maintained by only one thing, the collective act. We are all, every second of every day, reinforcing the as-if for each other by stopping at red lights and using money and respecting borders, if we all collectively decided to stop.
The entire architecture collapses back into just people and rocks.
That is the deep dive.
Indeed.